How's it going, fans of The Expanse? Today we're talking about episode 4, Godspeed, and we have a special guest. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion.
Sure.
AFTERBUZZ.
They loaded, just to keep you in the know, Naren, they loaded a wrong video into our intro slot. It's nice.
It's all good.
Cool. Alright, let's go that again.
Yep.
And rolling. 3, 2, 1.
What's up, fans of The Expanse? Today we're talking about episode 4, Godspeed, and we have a special guest. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion. AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Belters, Earthers, and Martians alike, welcome to The Expanse After Show. My name is Kari Lane. You can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's Karidlane. And those of you watching us live, thank you so much for already chatting up in the chat. Feel free to reach out during the show and, comments on the episode. And if you're watching this later, comment down below. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Maria couldn't make it today, but she'll be back next week. But I have a very special guest. I have Naren Shankar, who is the executive producer and showrunner for The Expanse. Welcome, welcome, sir.
Hello, hello.
And how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm in the middle of finishing up the latter half of the season. We just finished spotting music on episode 12, actually, and we've been finished with our visual effects side of things through, I think episode 9 at this point. So we're rolling along.
Now, how did you get involved with this particular title, The Expanse? Like, what drew you to this, and how did you find out about it?
Well, I had been, in the early part of my career, I did a lot of science fiction. My first show was Star Trek Next Generation, and I loved science fiction my whole life. And as I started writing in the entertainment business, I kind of moved away from it for a while. I was running the show CSI, the original CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, for many years with Carol Mendelsohn, and I just kind of wandered away. So after I left CSI, I really wanted to get back into sci-fi and into genre, and I was looking around for projects, and my agents sent me the script to The Expanse. That was and I had, I'll be very honest. It's like for a long time, I would get scripts from the Syfy channel, and I was not really thrilled with the kind of material they've been developing and working on for a lot of years, with the exception of Battlestar Galactica, which I thought was a masterpiece. Mm-hmm. And for 10 years, they had not done anything like that show. And so my agent sent me the script. They said it's on Syfy. I sent it to trash. I didn't even read the script. And then 3 weeks later, my agent, that's out. About 3 weeks later, my agent said, listen, please, just take a look at the script. It's different. And this time, I looked at the email, I scrolled to the bottom, saw that the script had been written by Mark Ferguson and Hawk Ostby, who had written the movie Children of Men, which I think was a brilliant, brilliant movie and a brilliant adaptation. And I wasn't familiar with the novel. But that's what made me want to read it, and when I read it, I was like, wow, this is a very different kind of a project for sci-fi, and it was adult, and it was, and I said, okay, let me go in and meet. I said, okay, I'm gonna take my cat and take her outside. Hang on.
That's all right.
I'm very anxious. Hold on.
So no worries. For those of you watching us live, if you have any questions, oh, cute kitty. If you guys have any questions, feel free to write them in the YouTube live chat, and then I will relay your questions.
Now we're back.
No worries. I was just letting our people know that if they have any questions, I will be passing them on to you. Okay. But yes, continue. So you saw the author, or who wrote the episode, and then that it was based on a novel.
Yeah, right. And so once I read the script, I said, yeah, absolutely, let me meet with these people. And I came in, I met at Alcon Television, which is our studio, and I met with Mark, and Hawk was on the phone, and Sharon Hall, who was the president of Alcon that I'd worked with before, and we just really hit it off. And it was a chance to do a science fiction show in a way that I don't think science fiction had been done maybe ever on television. And I found the book, it just had tremendous possibilities. It was a very, for lack of as realistic as drama could maybe be, about life in space. And I thought it was a great opportunity to make space and living in space a character in a show in a way that it hadn't been done before. And so everybody hit it off, and things went, we all got along. And the funniest part about it was, after I'd accepted the job, Sharon Hall said to me, she goes, and by the way, the writers of the book are going to be in your writing room. And I was like, you sure that's a really good idea? Because sometimes authors can be very precious, and they're not ready to have their material adapted to a different medium. And but in this case, Sharon was like, just check it out. These guys are great. And I met Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham, who are collectively James S.A. Corey, and found them immediately open, willing to change things, understanding that the way to tell the story in a novel is very different than the way you might want to be able to tell it in television. And what ultimately ended up happening is, having them around enabled us to do, I think, a really interesting adaptation of the work that is very true to the source material while still being different from it.
Absolutely.
And it's been a tremendously enjoyable process throughout working with these guys and the whole team.
I didn't read the book for season 1, but going into season 2, I did. So I'm currently maybe a quarter or so the way into Caliban's War, and I think you and the writers and everyone involved has done a tremendous job adapting the book with keeping true to source material, but making it different enough, but still, not too out of the realm of possibility.
Right, definitely. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I said some in the chat room. Andrew asked, how many ship/station sets are there now? Do you know a number?
Even the ones that we haven't blown up yet?
Sure, yeah. That are in existence, yes.
That's sort of our stock in trade, is we make these amazing looking sets and then we blow them up in short order. Right now, at the end of season 2, we have, obviously we have the Rossi, we have Tycho. There's a few assorted Martian ships. If you're talking about physically what's left, is that the question in terms of like physical production or in the story?
I think they mean
that's the way to look.
physically they're still.
Physically on set, we have Tycho, we have Ganymede Station, we have the Rossi, we have some Martian ships, and that's it.
Good handful.
The third book in the what was that? Just a little handful.
Yeah.
The third book in the series is much more ship-bound than the first two. The first two are a little bit more station-bound, I would say.
Oh, okay, cool. I look forward to that. I haven't gotten there yet. Andrew in the chat added to that saying whether they've been blown up or not would have been too spoilery, so they didn't ask that specifically.
Okay, I'm sorry. Is it okay to say that season 1 is fair game in terms of non-spoilery? I'll be very careful about season 2. I will, but season 1 is feels like it should be. I should be able to talk a little bit about it.
And then Corey in the chat says, I really enjoy watching The Expanse, and Naren Shankar, thanks for making it! !
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for watching it. It's really, the fan response has been amazing, and people really do seem to embrace it when they find it. So just want more people to find it.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about the episode Godspeed, and feel free to chime in on any behind the scenes information that you can shed light on.
Sure.
So in the beginning, we have a new stealth ship, and Avasarala is trying to figure out what's going on, and she's hanging out with Aaron Wright, and they figure out that all the stealth ships have been the crew on that stealth ship had been hired by Protogen, which is a company by Mao, and 13 bodies on board. But she's trying to piece it together.
Remember, just to break in for a second, it's not a new stealth ship. That's the stealth ship that they blew up at the end of episode 2.
Yes, okay.
That's the stealth ship that the Rossi was engaged with over the unknown spin station at the end of the season premiere. And so, like good belters, they've never thrown anything away. And so Fred Johnson figures out a use for it.
Nice. Good on the refresher. We do have an interesting question in the chat room. Pamela says, was there a big debate over sound in space, speaking of when the ships kick on their engines? There was actually. One of the things that we like to try to do, and as we've talked about even today, is scientific accuracy that we've embraced on the show. And one of those things, sound comes right up. Mm-hmm. And others, some shows have taken, I think Galactica, they took the approach of like maybe muffling sound in space a little bit, so things were a little bit quieter. We tried that. We tried a number of things early on in season 1. We contact microphones to capture, like, inside the spacesuits, you capture impacts, and we were, technically accurate renderings of sound in space. Mm-hmm. And when we put it up on stage and we listened to it, it sounded completely shitty and boring. And it was like you would have people walking around on a set, and and the footsteps would sound like doom 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 doom. It was almost comical. So a scene that was supposed to scare you would kind of make you laugh. And so what ended up happening is we people moving inside an empty derelict ship, the dramatic intention is to scare you. So the sounds, we decided to take a little poetic license with and make the sound metallic, more atmospheric and spooky, as it were, to actually help propel the drama. And that ultimately extended to the exterior space sequences and the battles, where you actually, when things are moving past you and they're big objects moving extremely fast with extremely powerful engines, the sounds convey that. And it's not obviously technically correct. It's obviously not scientifically accurate. But this is a story told in the entertainment industry, but it's apocryphal, but enough people have said it so that maybe now it's true. It's on this movie, Journey to the Center of the Earth in the 50s. It was made in the 50s with James Mason and Pat Boone. Mm-hmm. The director, it's an adaptation of the Jules Verne work. The director, apparently they're shooting, and it's in the middle of the planet, and they're in this cave kind of thing, and suddenly the director starts flipping out and he goes, "Oh my God, we're inside the planet. There's no sun. Where's the light coming from?" And he's having a total meltdown. And the cinematographer goes, "Where's the light coming?" The cinematographer says, "Same place as the music." And that really does sum it up. It's like, if the scene needs to scare you, then the sounds need to scare you too. It's half of your perceptual field when you're actually experiencing drama. To throw that away or to try to make it small just in the interest of scientific accuracy, you give up so much drama. And so we just took the dramatic license. The sounds in space are big. They're big and big and big. And occasionally we use things like, if something's exploding far away and you're not there, you don't hear the explosion across space. Right. We do that too, but it's done to dramatic effect, and that's really the guide. Yeah, and then The Expanse has been receiving a lot of critical acclaim of being very scientific, though, so I think you're allowed some artistic license then.
Exactly. I mean, and again, I think it's interesting that you're saying, yeah, you're right. It's like people say, "Oh my God, you guys are so accurate." And you really look at it carefully. Sometimes we're not, but we feel like we're accurate, and that, I think, is really the important thing, is that things feel real, things feel like they're moving real, and to the extent that's possible, we try to make it accurate, and when we can't, we just try to make sure that we're honoring the dramatic intention of the scene.
Nice. Then we jump over to our regular crew of Holden, Johnson, and Miller, and they're discussing their plan that they're going to plant explosives on Aeros and use the Nauvoo to push Aeros into the sun, which is a rather dramatic plan.
It is.
Yes, and you and I have read it, so we know what happens. But when that happened, I think people probably were like, "Wait, you're gonna do what plan?" Because exactly like Holden, like freaks out, going, "I don't think this is a good plan." But all right, I guess it's something that we can do.
It's a pretty crazy moment, even in the book. I remember when I was reading it, I was like, "It can't be really. This is insane."
Yes.
I mean, because this is like using a very big object to slam into a much bigger object to hurtle it into a gigantic object. It's pretty bananas. Stealing a temple to do it, essentially, it's just one of those crazy moments. And what's been nice to see in the reaction to the episode is that as gigantic and on the verge of outlandish as everything seems, it feels like people are feeling, that we pulled it off. Mm-hmm. That it does feel kind of real.
Kind of off story track, but actually a really interesting question. Bashan Boy asks, is there anything you can share, season planning, release time, etc., as a result of Netflix deal, like different time of the year or episode count, etc.?
As a result of the Netflix deal, well, the way it works for us is we premiere on Syfy domestically, and then stream on Amazon Prime in the United States, and then internationally we're Netflix original series throughout the rest of the world. I'm not 100% sure I understand the intention here. They're asking for like timing for season 2. Is that
maybe more for like how would you be releasing season 2 online the same way season 1 did? I mean, how you just said it'd be Amazon Prime and then Netflix and such.
As far as I know, that is the plan. I'm pretty sure it's going to be exactly the same. The only thing I don't know is the timing of it. So when we're going to go live on Amazon Prime and when we're going to go live on Netflix. I think that this past year, the show actually became available on Netflix International before it started on Amazon Prime streaming. So, but yeah, I don't have any dates. As soon as we do, we'll certainly share them with everybody.
Someone else in the chat chimed in. Well, does that mean maybe there might be more episodes then for like future seasons?
Oh, more episodes for season 2. I don't think that's actually. Nothing like that has been planned. Now, there's any number of conversations that we have,
right,
which could change that, but nothing concrete.
Okay.
And certainly, like what you'll be seeing is season 2 on all of those platforms. The 13 episodes that we have on Syfy.
Yeah. Well, you guys need to be watching this live on Syfy, and if you're watching this show now, you probably are watching it live on Syfy because you don't want to miss out.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's, by the way, that's the best way to get more episodes. Ultimately, is you got to keep these shows are our first window is on essentially a broadcast network. Those are the guys who they sell ads, and so they need viewers, and that's just their business model. And if we were premiering on a Netflix or an Amazon, that would be a different kind of a thing. But yeah, so by all means, watch it live.
There you go. Tell your friends, go watch it live, catch up, and join live. Then the Rosie and the crew agree to the plan, and I like Johnson's quote. Well, somebody's got to act, and it's the right thing to do. Pretty much like, oh no, what are the Mormons gonna think? But we're saving the galaxy.
Right, the Mormons are gonna be pissed. That line in the book. And it's, I think it was Holden in the book or Fred in the book. I'm not sure, but we gave it to Naomi.
Yeah, it is interesting watching it after reading it, because I myself have had my moments. I'm like, wait, how did it exactly happen? But that kind of is a testament to the show itself, because then you're not like, oh no, that feels so wrong. You're just like, oh wait, both versions totally work.
Yep. Yeah. That's good to hear.
Yes. Then we have I love the conversation with Vasarala, Mao, and Aaron Wright, and how Aaron Wright is absolutely leading Mao in the questions, like, hey buddy, this is what we're doing, right? And she's not dumb. She picked up on that.
She did. It was that was a fun scene because she finally gets to stick Aaron right
Mm-hmm.
the whole game, and she's basically fucking with them both and just trying to get them on, get them accountable and drag them into the light and put both of them in a very tough position.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun scene.
And then we have, how they get it was cute, or not cute, sorry, amusing how they get all the Mormons off the ship. They're like, yeah, we have a radiation leak. And how Miller goes, yeah, it's part of God's plan. So that was a fun little wrap up on that character. And then pardon?
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me again.
No, it's all right.
Is driving me crazy. Hang on a second. All right, one sec. Sorry.
And then thank you so much for chiming in with the chat, and make sure to rate, like, and subscribe to AfterBuzz. Give the video a thumbs up, and if you're listening to this on iTunes, give it 5 stars. Leave a comment review. Let us know what you think of the show and what are your predictions too. And for those of you like me reading it, please no spoilers. We gotta contain ourselves, and the show kind of changes it up a little bit, so we can't reveal too many spoilers.
I dealt with the cat issues. We're good.
It's all right. The fans like your cat and that you have a cat. And they also dig your shirt.
Oh wait, here. It's a good one.
Nice.
It's Dinosaur Eats the Jesus Fish.
Ah.
It's sort of a pro-evolutionary kind of a statement.
There you go. Oh, yes. We have the Naomi and Miller conversation, which their relationship has been an interesting development because they kind of have that belter bonding, but also very different kind of lives. And how she asks, "Are you doing this for Julie?" And how he says, like, and how she points out, "Well, this won't get rid of the protomolecule, and you didn't tell Fred, did you?" And he's like, "No, it's my own mission."
It was actually one of the nice surprises that we kind of found as we were developing the season, because initially we had felt like, the real core relationship with Miller is going to be Miller and Holden.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in the books. But as we were writing it, we realized that there was a more natural, perhaps, way of connecting Miller to Naomi, and it was through Belter identification.
Mm-hmm.
And it just was one of those that was nice sort of things that was, that sort of listening to the story as it presents itself to you is the moment where Naomi goes to Miller after Amos almost kills Miller, and they have a really warm discussion, and they finally see that they're kind of more alike than different.
Mm-hmm.
And then Naomi understands what Miller did with Dresden, and that better than Holden, and so it just turned out that she became the closest person on the Rossi crew to Miller, just very naturally. And I was really happy with the way that turned out, and I thought Thomas and Dominique did a beautiful job with it too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I do have a question, which we do see a glimpse of Julie when Miller is on the detonation crew boarding ship. Mm-hmm. Now, as I recall in the book, he sees her a lot, and I felt the show didn't do it as much. You want to touch upon that?
Yeah, it was something that we talked about a lot, and boy, this is a tough one to actually answer without getting into details of the next episode.
Right. Yep.
but suffice to say that there were reasons for not wanting Miller to have Julie around to talk to.
Okay.
I think that it's one thing in a book to do that because you don't have to actually see it.
Yes.
But our feeling dramatically was that Miller had built so much and put so much on finding Julie and getting her out of a jam, and it ends so tragically
mm-hmm.
at the end of episode 8 of season 1 that to have her around and talking to him and interacting with him in the book felt like she was not dead.
Ah.
And so it it undercut the loss
Mm-hmm.
dramatically. So when Miller in that scene in episode 1 talks about, all he's got is this picture. He tells Naomi. Naomi says, "Oh my God, you guys were together for a long time. You were in love." And he goes, "No, we never met." It was like, and it's so tragic that he was in love. He essentially fell in love with this woman, this noble spirit who was doing such a strong thing and a good thing, and then he didn't even have the chance to actually meet her, and all he has is this picture and this memory, and now he's like, I catch a glimpse of her, and I know she's not there. That all felt very honest. To have him talking to her and having a conversation, it just somehow didn't feel right for this version of the story.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent way to explain it, because from a fan who watched the show and then read the book, I thought it deepened his relationship with her, because I'm like, wow, he's really obsessed with her. But I hadn't thought of it as a sense of expressing more of his loss to not have her at all. So I think that's an excellent decision. But if you guys haven't read the book, go read it, because it's very entertaining and interesting how he sees her and talks to her as well.
Yeah, I think he has
in his head, by the way, in his head.
More directly obsessed. And we kind of played it slightly differently. But I think I'm really very happy where it ended up, and I think it pays off in such a beautiful way. So I think people will be really touched by it.
And then we jump over to the Mao and Ehrenreich talking about it, and it's kind of like they break up, and Mao has a very kind of creepy comment, or at least I thought it was creepy. Yeah, you need someone who's willing to adjust his world views accordingly. And that just was a little creepy, of like, wait, what does that mean? Like, you're willing to change how you see the world, and it almost meant like, are you willing to change your beliefs for me? No, not for my company? All right, bye, you're done. Ooh, I think we have a little delay on you.
I think he's just thinking very in-depthly.
Yes.
So we just lost him, guys. Sorry if you can hear me. I'm the guy in the booth. But we will try to get him back.
So what did you all think of that scene where Mao and Ehrenreich are talking, and Mao points out, Avasarala knew about Phoebe. Avasarala knows that they're working together because she's not stupid. She's very smart. And then his line too of the, adjust your worldview accordingly, which I thought that was a little disturbing. So yeah, while we're coming back, we'll just keep going. But maybe I'll ask him to touch back upon that point. And, so we have, the Roci ship, as it's going towards Aeros, they find out that there's Martian and UN ships in the area, which is like, oh no, this just can't be a good idea. But I want to know, is Bobby on one of those ships? So is she going to get involved with them that way? Because that would be really cool. I'm on beginning of book 2, and they haven't quite come together the same way. And it's similar and different. So I do highly recommend, if you've watched it, go read it, like maybe later. Because it is very similar, but there's moments that are different, but not too much, where you're just like, wait, what? I'm looking at you guys in the chat room. I love that you guys are talking. It's wonderful. Andrew says, Mao's totally threatening him. Ehrenreich, yes, but he knows it's going over his head. That's true. And Pamela says, Mao pegged that Vassaral. Yeah, they knew they were together. Because, yes. Oh, I love her swearing. Don't you guys love her swearing? She didn't swear that much in this episode, though. And then we have, Miller is dropped off on Aeros with Diogo, and they have a time limit to place the bomb. So it's like, oh, darn. You can't just take your time. You got to hurry up and do this. And the space jumping was so amusing, because they're like, you haven't space jumped before? You're a belter. And he's like, well, I'm kind of a city belter. And so it was another fun moment looking at Miller's identity as a belter and how it's not quite the same as everybody else. And he has that poor landing on the Aeros station and drops the explosive, but it's okay because Diogo has a spare. So that was very amusing. Yes. I want to say it's Laud. I'm sorry if I say it wrong, but in the chat points out Diogo's being so cool in the series. Yes, his character is very fun in the show. I don't think his character had quite as big of a presence in the book as much, or I think it was a much smaller role. And I like the casting on that character because he seems so young. Oh yes, so we jump over, the Rosie is scanning Aeros, and they're hearing the voices, and I feel that's kind of a moment where the rest of our crew gets to hear it, because before Miller definitely did, but they hadn't been all together and listening to the voices, and they're still very, it's just a jumble of noise at this point, though. They haven't quite heard like specific words or phrases as much. In the book, they really go into that, and I'm curious how the show will keep it going, but at this point they've already heard like phrases, but they don't really make sense. Like it's like you've had a TV on a bad loop of hearing random blurbs that you're just like, wait, what? Shaving? Or throw the baseball, and you're just like, I don't get what that means. So it's kind of almost creepier, I think, how the show did just this jumble of noise, and they're all kind of like, wait, what does that mean? So we'll find out soon. And yes. Okay. Sorry, I love reading your guys' comments in the chat and then jumping back. Oh yes, so they also find that there is a ship on Aeros. Dun dun dun. I don't remember that being in the book, so I did like that though, because that leads up to an amazing moment with Holden, which we'll get to in just a moment. So they send a drone to check out the ship, and you're just like, and it's those humanitarian guy. And I just kind of laughed, though, because he was on the TV, a few episodes back, and I'm kind of like, how are they going to bring this guy back? And it's like, I'm here doing good stuff. And you're just like, oh, that's so nice. But they're not going to tell him the truth of what's going on, but they probably should be like, no, you're going to die if you stay here. And then when it jumps back to Miller and Diogo, they have that nice little conversation about, like, OPA or gangsters, but he's just trying to, Miller's just trying to give Diogo advice because he's like this old, at this point, Miller's kind of the old grumpy man of like, here, let me tell you my life experiences, and this is what you should be doing. But they kind of, patch things up by the end. Ha! That's kind of a pun for later when Miller gets the part of his suit scratched and does the patch. All right, I like that pun. Then we have so the team, they're trying to get the aides to leave, and they're like, maybe they'll just leave. And I wrote down the name, the Marasmus. Sorry if I said that wrong. I know they wrote it and then I kind of missed it. But Miller finds the funky door. He's like, wait, that's been broken from the outside, and it's just like, oh, it's open a crack, which I don't know how many of you were squirming in your seat like, oh no, it's open, don't go in there, Miller, don't do it. But he opens it a crack, and there's a body, and it's been infected with the proto molecule. Hey, welcome back.
We only got audio, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know what happened.
It's okay. Technology, eh? It's like,
Oh, Skype. Ugh.
It's okay.
All right.
Well, actually,
Okay.
we'll just jump back to where we are now. I was talking about the kind of wonderfully creepy moment where Miller he's on the Aeros station, he finds the door that's been tampered with and how there's like a crack in the door, and you're just like, don't go in there, and finds the body infected by the protomolecule, and it's the humanitarian people's little other employee. So they were lying that they got on the ship.
The sharp-eyed viewer will remember the doctor that they talked to on the monitor, Dr. Misplead.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually giving a testimony at the UN. You see him on a news report.
Yes.
In episode when Miller and Holden are in the med bay. He's talking about there's a humanitarian crisis and why isn't anybody helping? So that's the guy.
Yeah, I was wondering how that character would come back, and that kind of leads into this moment we're about to get to, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, is because this part wasn't in the book. There wasn't the ship there, but that character and that ship being there leads to the moment for Holden that they were inside, they might be infected, and this is not in the book, so I made my prediction, not knowing anything, going, they're going to have to blow up the ship. And they did, which, oh no, I knew it. I'm like, hold it, they have to kill them. They can't let them leave. They're probably infected. And then Holden has to make that decision. What was it like for you on that moment where you all were talking about that and executing? Oh, that's a bad pun there too. That moment.
Well, the writer of the episode, Dan Nowak, he felt really strongly that this was, the whole angle on this particular Doctors Without Borders ship is there because in the books they don't really have that much difficulty getting the whole thing done. They go there, they plant the bombs. I mean, the same stuff happens with Miller. He gets stranded. He's much more overtly suicidal in the books than he is in the show.
Yes.
But Dan, when he was writing this, he just said, listen, there's no cost to this. There's no cost for anybody here. And, that here's this place. We've set this thing up. We're making a whole point about humans not believing Belters are, Earthers saying that Belters aren't human. It's like what we try to do over and over again is dimensionalize each side. It's that nobody is monolithic. It's like Belters aren't unambiguously good. Earthers aren't unambiguously bad. Martians aren't unambiguously bad. There's good and bad in every single side. And nobody looks upon themselves as a villain. So what this came about, where this came about, was when we get there, is that Holden has to make a real choice and a real decision with real consequences to do this plan. And that conversation led to this moment, and Dan felt really strongly that this was important to do. And it was a really good point, and it's an incredibly strong moment because it's basically saying, what is the test of your own convictions, and do you have the courage of your convictions to pull that trigger? Because if everything that you're saying is true and those stakes are real, in this case the answer is, yeah, I got to pull the trigger. And you try to do everything that you can and not to get to that point, but when you have to make the decision, he does. And it costs him, and you'll see it has ramifications later on. Is it because that once you make a decision of that nature, it kind of forces you to a position where you have to keep moving to say, I'm right, I'm going to do it. I'm basically not willing to, if I'm going to pull the trigger and make that kind of choice, God damn it, I'm going to finish this thing. And that was part of it, is that we're putting Holden on the road where we're supposed to finish this, where this becomes a quest for him, and so much of himself is wound up in it that he's got to pursue it to the end.
Oh, and his acting in that scene, Steven's acting was so good, of his freak out, and in terms of the freaking out after he did it and how upset he was that he felt he had to do it. Oh, it was so good. I just was like, felt so bad for him.
Yeah, it's a good moment. It's just like when that button, everybody is saying like, Jesus Christ, are we doing this for real? And he's taking it on himself, and he's got to pull the trigger. Yeah. And it just kind of and the moment it's beautifully directed. Jeff Woolnough directed the episode, and he it's just, the moment just kind of hangs there, and everybody just feels horrible.
Yes. And that's also a moment, like, not even after they've had time to deal with that, they learn Miller has decided he has to stay on Aeros. I mean, it's not really an easy decision, but it was one of those, if I leave, Miller's thoughts, if I leave, this will all be for naught because somebody needs to hold their finger on the trigger on the bomb. Otherwise, it's going to F up the plan that they've all spent so much effort into putting together. And they're just, the team is like, even if they have issues with him, they're all so sad of like, wait, you can't stay. That means you'll die. They're like, no.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing that was interesting was, in that moment, Naomi's really, the vessel of that emotion. I think, again, she feels the closest to him. And she's the one, Holden doesn't really he doesn't get to really say goodbye to Miller because he's so pissed at the guy. Even on the docks, when in episodes, earlier in the episode, where Naomi comes up to him, it's like she's the one who crosses to him, right? And that's the first nice moment that they've had together. And so she's the one who's really feeling the loss, I think, most profoundly at that moment. You know, but, you know, if you really think back to it with these guys, from the moment that they met in that crazy gunfight in that hotel and everything that they went through, they had like one moment of like real genuine warmth, which was over the table having, you know, Alex's lasagna and talking about cheese farts.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of like the only really like moment. There's a couple of other nice moments, but that's really the warmest. And you know, what we were trying to do is, in a very compressed way, is like to play this notion of the family that might have been and the crew that might have been had not shit just gotten in the way really fast. And so that's where we ended up.
Yeah. And then the biggest, almost kind of one of the biggest things that happened, Aeros moved. Okami in the chat said, I haven't read the book, so I was sure Miller was going to die. Then when the Nauvoo missed, I was like, thank God. But I was also like, oh crap.
Okay, then it sounds like it worked perfectly on all fronts. That's great.
Yeah, that's a moment that I don't think anybody was expecting. Maria, my co-host, who wasn't able to make it tonight, she's like, I think something's going to go wrong. And I was like, yeah, but I don't think she'll expect that. All right, a lot of people are talking about it, and without being too spoilery, we're going to be getting to Prax this season, right? All right, yeah,
Yes,
a lot of people are excited about that. I was going to say, you don't have to say how soon, because I feel that almost leads into storyline stuff.
Well, I'm actually kind of curious to see if people kind of figure out how we're going to connect from Leviathan into Caliban's War, because in the novels there's like an 18-month time span between those two books.
Well,
and in storyline, and which we're not going to have in this. So I'm curious if people sense it already. I think some people have, but we'll see.
By bringing Bobby in, though, you kind of have.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah,
and that was the whole reason for it. Is my feeling that it gave us an unambiguously clear sort of statement of purpose at the beginning of the season, to say that the Martians are part of this story too.
Yes.
But it also enabled us to introduce Bobby as a character before the events in Caliban, in a way that helped advance both her story and the larger narrative around it.
Ah, very cool. Well, I wanted to say thank you so much for reaching out both ways of Skype and phone call. It works, you know. It's all right with the technical difficulties. We appreciated talking to you about the episode. It was really great to hear your insight into this very complex and engaging show.
Well, thank you so much. It's really my pleasure, and thanks to all the fans. And we love reaching out and talking. So keep at it.
And then
we'll give you the answers that we can.
Yes. And then if fans want to reach out to you, what's the best way to find you online?
I'm a little bit of a social recluse online, but I have a Twitter handle. It's at Naren Shankar. The only reason is my days are pretty full.
Oh, really? I can't imagine.
But yes, but you know what? I'm there on Twitter, but also the Expanse writers on Twitter. That's always a good way to get to me, because we have a bunch of people who take a look at that, and if something comes up that I can weigh in on, or that they need me to weigh in on, I'm always available. So that's probably the best way.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Naren. It was wonderful talking with you, and I'm definitely excited to see what's coming up for The Expanse.
And do not miss episode 5. It's really, it's a pretty special, hour of the show, and it's a real treat.
All right, fans, you heard it. You got to make sure you tune in for next week. Well, thank you, and hopefully talk to you again soon. Guys, you can reach out to me on Twitter and Instagram if you want to continue the discussion at Kari D. Lane. That's Karidlane. And like I said, make sure to rate the show, give it a thumbs up, 5 stars on iTunes, leave comments down below what you thought of the episode, and make sure you subscribe to AfterBuzz so you can be up to date on all these awesome shows. You can also catch me on The Magicians After Show, another fun sci-fi show. Emerald City. Timeless has its finale on Monday. Time After Time is starting soon. And Box Office Breakdown, where we look at the movies that came out over the weekend. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.